Hello there, good evening to you. Welcome to the inauspicious surroundings of my home. As on this occasion, there weren't quite the passes to get me into Stamford Bridge. So I wasn't at Stamford Bridge for Norwich's 1-0 defeat to Chelsea. Cannot remember the last time I watched Norwich on the TV, but there we go, I did it. Sky Sports News is still on. My laptop has literally run out of battery, which has just cut Daniel Farker off from the last question that I think Paddy Davitt was asking. Good old Pad. So, which sadly was Daniel answering a question about Norwich now having set a new record of 8 successive league defeats, which is bruising, and they're going to have their worst, I think possibly their worst ever season in league football, which I think for everything that has gone on, and as much as everyone wants to look forward and the sort of positivity about what could happen in the Championship next year and the long-term rebuild and all these sort of things, cool, what a brutal, rubbish, painful campaign that's going to leave Norwich with a huge amount of momentum shifting when they get into the Championship next year, hoping of course to win it to be brutally honest. So there we go. I'm probably not coming across as particularly disappointed because I haven't got a 3-hour drive home and I can go to bed in a bit and just maybe do some writing before I do so that has been a benefit. Watching the game, I thought some of the insights from the TV commentary wasn't great, to be honest, and a little bit detached from how things have actually been. In terms of Norwich's performance, what I would say is it was okay. I kind of there's a bit of me that wished we'd seen more of this kind of a lower block and springing into counterattacks and growing into games and being in games for longer away from home, which is what they did tonight. And again, given everything that's gone on, and it wasn't that long ago since Norwich were relegated, the fact that they didn't just completely fold tonight was a positive. Let's be clear. What I would add is that I thought Chelsea had chances, especially Olivier Giroud had plenty of chances throughout the evening. So on a different night, Chelsea could have been 3 or 4-0 winners. And let's be quite clear, Chelsea looked a bit off as well. I don't think it was quite happening for them either. So, and they're obviously in a sticky spot themselves. So, swings and roundabouts. Norwich can only play against who they're up against, obviously. But you know, they on a day when Wigan were beating Hull 7-0 at half time, I think we can all be slightly, I suppose, grateful that it finished 1-0. And of course, Norwich go to Manchester City on the final day of the season, and they've got Burnley at home at Carrow Road on Saturday, which I will be back at, of course. But yeah, a couple of changes, and I know, and I'm well aware that Lucas Rupp and Josip Drmic are getting quite a lot of stick at the moment. I would have, I think watching Josip up front is particularly painful at the moment. He has another year on his contract. I think he still could be a player who suddenly ends up in the Championship and can do something, but he does look miles off it at the moment. And that goes in terms of his physical condition, but also I just don't see a player who's very hungry. And you'll get found out pretty quickly in the Championship if that's the case. Lucas Rupp, I see it as a slightly different case in point, because I see someone who's generally pretty disciplined tactically, but just looks way off it in terms of the quality. Now, both of these two players have had injury issues over the last few years. Certainly, Lucas Rupp had quite a serious injury not so long ago, and I know that even if you get back from those injuries, it can still take months and months before you actually return to the level that you're happy with, I suppose, or that brings you on the level of your teammates. Both those players look well short. And I guess if you want a reason why they're playing, maybe some of that reason is the fact that they are trying to give them some time on the pitch so that when it comes to the start of next season, they're not as far off it and they can prove that they can compete. But, their level will need to be a lot higher next year, and obviously that will go for other players as well. But aside from that, it feels a bit like pre-season, really. I don't really know how much to judge it because Norwich are in a massive rut. They've just been relegated, and I feel like it's not that everyone's being patronising, but I think everyone knows that Norwich are kind of there to be done. And some people will take some positives from the fact that Norwich showed a bit of resilience tonight, but what does it mean really? And that is going to be the case for the next two games. Everything from this point on really is about next season, and only when we get into the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 games of the Championship campaign can we really look at where Norwich are, where the mentality is in the group, how the new signings have maybe refreshed that energy, and how much of a hangover there is. So for all you sitting there hoping that this season just gets over and done with, it's not just that, but it's all pre-season that we're probably going to be thinking that, and then hoping we see something when it comes to the Championship. But there we go. Giroud too strong for Tim Closer for the goal. I felt Todd Cantwell could have closed Pulisic down more for the cross for the goal. Giroud actually bullied Ben Godfrey in a similar way in the second half. It's just his effort wasn't on goal. Tim Krul made a couple of fantastic saves. And Norwich did have a little bit more energy about them when Adamida and Timu Pukki came on later, and I felt like Emi Buendia needed to come on too, and I suppose you can't have a load of attacking players on, so I can kind of understand why it was Todd Cantwell who went off for Emi, possibly, but Todd was playing okay, so it wouldn't necessarily be my first choice to bring him off. What was annoying is that Daniel made those changes. They looked quite promising for a couple of minutes. Then Frank Lampard made his changes, and that kind of nullified it, and Chelsea had control back of the game. And I remember from 2 years ago getting frustrated about the lateness of Daniel's substitutions. I think there are several things I want to see from Daniel in terms of the side being better, even better than the one that won the Championship. That's literally where I'm setting the bar, which is pretty high. But I would want to see positive impacts from the substitutions and being made early enough when they need to be, because I think that is part of the learning progress that has to happen should Norwich get promoted again and should they end up back in the Premier League, because there's kind of been the acceptance that the changes haven't worked because the personnel hasn't been good enough this year, which is okay to a degree, but I'd want to see a bit more of both the quality of on the pitch and also how Daniel manages that, and that's in the Championship, and we're not going to get ahead of ourselves too much. Anyway, have a great rest of your week. Keep an eye on The Athletic for all the content. If you haven't read my piece about the Project Rebound, or me speaking to Stuart Webber about the poor recruitment, the injury issues, and Daniel's future, then I suggest you read all those because they're well worth it, especially in the context of where Norwich go from here following their relegation. And I'll probably see you after Saturday when Norwich host Burnley to sign off from Carrow Road for the season. It's been a long one. In the meantime, post any comments, anything you want to say, any questions you want to ask, please do. Keep an eye out for the latest On The Ball podcast as well, which will be on Monday too. And I'll see you soon. All the best. What am I going to leave as a background image? Oh, here you go.